Hey kids, and welcome to the show. Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about the Texas Heartbeat Bill. And why am I going to talk to you guys about the Texas Heartbeat Bill when I live in Oklahoma? It's because there's several other states that are going to start doing similar bills. And people will call these an anti-abortion bill. They will call them a all kinds of stuff. They've been calling them racist and all that stuff. So, I definitely want to spend some time talking about this topic. And I want to come from a place of education and caring, not from a place of downing people for it. I, full disclosure, am very pro life. I have identified as a pro life person since about the age of 14 or 15, because that's when I found out about the horrors of abortion. And unfortunately for me, it was uh, it was one of those gross pictures. Someone, an adult leader, showed us pictures of aborted babies, and yeah, it was pretty horrifying. And so I did some research as a young man, and ended up spending a lot of time um, working with pro-life organizations, and then ultimately going into ministry. Now, several years later and 5 children later, I can tell you I am probably more pro life today than I was when I saw those images. And it's for different reasons, mostly because I have learned to value how precious life really is. As a 15-year-old, I couldn't. But now, seeing my children and having children that have had to have procedures done and life altering procedures, it's scary. The issue that we have in the world today isn't isn't what you think it is, and people are arguing and fighting, and it's sad because we're talking about unborn babies. And you can say it's a fetus. We used to say it's a fetus, but the word fetus is actually just a Latin word that means offspring or baby. So it's just changing the language. So let's talk about it. I think if I think most people don't want to kill babies. They're not going to kill a baby the minute after it's born, even though that is legal in some places, unfortunately. Most people have a line, but a lot of people don't even know what that line is. For me, the first cell division is the line because that is the new DNA. That is when that is a person, an individual person. So, poof, that's it. And it doesn't matter if that's a disabled person or whatever. First cell division, when they have all their chromosomes and their DNA structure their life. Other people say it's when the baby's heart beats, and other people say it's when it's viable outside the womb. Once you find where your line is, it's much easier to have the discussion. And you really should have the discussion because the issue really isn't that abortion is legal or illegal. The issue is that there's women out there that think that is their only option. So if that is the only option for someone, we are failing as a church and as a people to provide the services necessary and the education necessary to make sure that abortions never take place. So you can scream you're pro life all day long, but are you open to having adopting a child, having a foster child? Are you open to that stuff? And for me and for my family, it doesn't end at the baby. It ends when it's time to end. And I'm against capital punishment. I'm just completely pro-life. And yes, I was in the military. How was I in the military if I'm extremely pro-life? My job in the military was a defensive one. And my mission was to protect someone, the chaplain. I was a bodyguard. You provide security for him. And for me, that was my mission. It wasn't about going over there and blowing this up or destroying that or breaking this. It was about protecting this man, in my case, or woman. but in my case, it was a man. And that was my mission. I never thought of it as an offensive mission in the military, and that's how I served. I don't know if that's right, but I never served in the sense that I wanted to take anyone's life. It was very much the opposite. I served because I wanted to save people's lives, and it ended up being in my profession that I got to save a few lives, and I unfortunately had to see some um, pass from this life, and it was the nature of the work that I did, and it still is. So we're looking at this Texas heartbeat bill, and people are freaking out. They're saying it's taking away all the rights, and I think people. I'm hearing arguments and saying, well, the heartbeat isn't really a heart because it's not really pumping, and so that doesn't count. And then it's at 6 weeks. Is it at 8 weeks? And then other people are like, well, it's not a heartbeat. It's brain waves that make it a baby, but they didn't look that up. So here's a little, and I want you guys to look this up on your own because I just looked this up today because I was curious about some of these arguments. Number one, the bill exempts the rape and incest argument. So that's table that. So we're just talking about birth control, abortion, and literally that's all we're talking about. We're talking about birth control. We're talking about people that go get pregnant and for whatever reason, it's not the right thing. The Texas law allows unlimited abortions up until the point that a detectable heartbeat is detected, and then you have to have these exemptions. Heartbeats around 6 weeks. Typically, I think they say women typically find out they're pregnant around 4 weeks. So this gives you 2 weeks to make a decision whether or not you're going to terminate the baby before you have to go get exemptions. So that's the line. And then the argument is that it's not really pumping blood. I'm going to get back to that in a second. Or pumping air. Yeah, blood. I'll get back to that in a second. Then some people say brain waves. Well, detectable brain waves we find are around 6 weeks. So around the same time the heart's beating. So that argument's kind of out the window. And some people say it's when they can survive outside the womb. Well, we have babies surviving at 20 weeks right now. So, and it's just getting better and better. So what point? There's people out there that really think that the life is given to it by mom. And if she says that baby has a soul, it has a soul. And if she doesn't say the baby has a soul, it doesn't. I've heard that argument. So until mom says that it's a life, it's not a life. And that one's kind of a little scary to me. No, it's a lot scary because we don't do that. So we have to ask ourselves when it's a life. Like I said, it's conception for me. So what do? What happens in one of those instances that's just scary? I do whatever I can to support the woman in my life that would have an unwanted pregnancy. That's all we can do is we can be there and we can serve them. So I said something about the heart earlier, and so one of the arguments that I've heard is that at 6 weeks, that heart that's beating that you see on an ultrasound is actually, let me take a sip of water, excuse me. Fact check false, that wasn't water, that was coffee. Let's get back to the heart. The argument is that at 6 weeks, when you see the little beep, 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 on the ultrasound, and it's not really a heart, it's not functioning as a heart. Well, my little girl that was born in June, her fetal heart decided to keep working, and when she was born, it transfers from a fetal heartbeat to a normal heartbeat because you're not inside your mom anymore. Hers didn't transfer. So she spent the first day of her life in this world fetal heartbeat. So I don't know what that means. Was she a fetus even though she was born? No, she wasn't. She's precious. We have to determine when life begins. And for us, it began before we knew it was there, at conception. And we were given this huge and wonderful and scary responsibility. And we're trying our best. But when people start saying that hearts don't work, so they're not real children, my daughter spent the day of her life not being a real child. And she had the little surgery and boom, she's open, and her heart's open and it's working and it's doing everything. But there's so much nuance to the exceptions in the pro-life, pro-choice issue. There's a lot of nuance because we're always talking about the exception. Laws should never be written for the exception. They really need to be written to the typical, and the exceptions need to be made available for whatever that might be. And that's the spooky part. It's trying to know what makes it available, what doesn't. So it's a wonderful responsibility that we have to be parents. And we don't have to take tests to do it. Being a good parent means, for no other reason than you just love this little being, B-E-I-N-G. You just love them, and you can't explain it. And until you experience that little ultrasound screen doesn't really tell you the full story. And the full story is you have to know definitively what is what. And every time you try to speak about something like this, people move the goalposts back and forth. And it's every argument, every person has their opinion because they knew somebody or they know somebody or something happened to them. As Christians, we need to be less judgmental to people who have had abortions. That's part of the issue. You can't scream at people and you can't yell at people and talk about how evil they are and expect them to actually think that you serve someone that is of love. So, if you are a baby in a womb, you're a newborn, you're a toddler, you're a child, you're a teenager, you're an adult, you're an elder, your life matters. Love you guys all. Until next time, work hard, be kind, and have fun.